Well, it seems that Injustice 3 is very likely on the way from NetherRealm, and personally, I'm a little conflicted. I really like the Injustice games, and that's coming from someone who isn't a huge fan of fighting games in general. I don't play Mortal Kombat, for example, but I like the DC IP enough to sink some time into Injustice. I've enjoyed playing through the stories of both games. I liked the story of Injustice 2 better than Injustice 1, but both were interesting in their own ways. I've enjoyed fighting friends in the PvP mode. I've thought their rosters and arenas that they've added to the game are really fun. And for some people, that's probably all they care about. They just care about the roster and the arenas, and to be fair, even if the story of Injustice 3 didn't do it for me, I would still have a lot of fun in that PvP mode. With that being said, someone who does care about the story, because I do care about these characters and the DC universe, I'm a little concerned about where Injustice 3 could go. Injustice 2 was really good, like I said, I liked it better than the first game. A lot of that had to do with the roster and the customization abilities where you could make the characters look the way you wanted to. There was a lot that was super fun about that game, but the story felt truly cinematic. It had some awesome emotional beats, and it felt like a satisfying DC story. So what's the problem, you might ask? Well, the game has two alternate endings, and I don't think either of them are very interesting as setup for a potential Injustice 3. The games are obviously ensemble pieces that include the Justice League and many of their villains as major players of the story, but I'd say that in Injustice 2, Batman and Supergirl are the heavy hitters. They're kind of the emotional core of the story. In the good ending, Batman and Supergirl team up. It seems that they're going to reform the Justice League while Superman is placed back into custody, and it's likely that he would return as a villain in the third game. Now, you could go two routes with this. The first is that you have Superman break out, he kind of reforms this evil insurgency, and they go up against the new Justice League, and it kind of feels like Injustice 1 in that way. If Injustice 3 is in fact going to be a direct sequel to Injustice 2, I think this is maybe the best direction they could go. It would feel the most personal, they could start tying up some character arcs, and there's some cool things you could do with the characters, but I'm not even a huge fan of this approach. The evil Superman thing has been so overdone in games. I was already tired of it by Injustice 2, and now that we've had Suicide Squad kill the Justice League, I can't really say that I'm itching to see it again. Additionally, this approach could feel heavily derivative of the first game depending on how it was written. Another approach you could take if you follow through with the good ending of Injustice 2 is that you could have another major threat come from the cosmos. You could have Mongol or Darkseid show up, a threat big enough that they all need to team up regardless of whether they're good or bad. Once again, you have all the heroes and villains of Earth teaming up to take down this new threat. My problem here is that's exactly what the plot of Injustice 2 was. To see Injustice 2's story recycled in a direct sequel would feel very underwhelming, and I wouldn't be a huge fan of it. The bad ending of Injustice 2 was that Superman got hold of Brainiac's technology, used it to brainwash Batman, he's imprisoned Supergirl, and told her that if she won't join him of her own free will, he will do the same thing to her and brainwash her. So if you follow through on the bad ending, you basically just get the plot of Suicide Squad kill the Justice League. Superman brainwashes all of the Justice League members who won't join him willingly, and you play as the villains and smaller scale heroes to take them out. Need I explain why this isn't a great idea, or does the $200 million that Suicide Squad kill the Justice League lost speak for itself? Now, please don't let what I'm saying get lost in translation. I'm not saying that I wouldn't be interested in Injustice 3. I absolutely would be interested in seeing a new DC fighting game from NetherRealm. I'm a fan of both previous entries in Injustice. I'm just saying that I don't necessarily want the third game to be a direct sequel to Injustice 2. Again, I'm tired of this evil Superman shtick. Is there any way that we can have him be one of the good guys in Injustice 3? It stops feeling subversive and interesting when you do it every single time. At this point, it would be a more interesting and surprising plot twist for Superman to actually be good in a game rather than have him be bad. We've seen it way too much. So rather than doing a direct sequel, here are a few ideas that I would be more interested in seeing for NetherRealm's next fighting game for DC Comics. The first is a prequel. Now, this wouldn't be my most preferred direction for them to go, but you could do something cool here. By taking us back and letting us play through a story like the formation of the Justice League or one of of their biggest successes that they worked through. It would make the games that take place later in the series hit a lot harder. Superman and Batman being enemies in Injustice and Injustice 2 would feel more tragic and hit a lot harder if we got to see their friendship at the beginning of their career as heroes. Even as we played through the prequel and got to see these characters as friends before their downfall, it would make the prequel tragic because we know what eventually comes in the next games. It would build an interesting irony for the player because we know the outcome and we desperately don't want it to go that direction. We could see just how close these characters get, how good of friends they are, and we know that it will not last. Another direction they could go is Flashpoint. Flash doesn't seem to be a character that Warner Brothers is willing to shell out enough money to make a AAA game for, but if you made him the leading character of an Injustice game, I think it might work, making him the emotional core of the story, where the game follows through with the bad ending, where Superman is starting to brainwash everyone, and as the Flash, you run back in time to try and fix everything only to mess up the universe way more. It would put a character who's been underutilized in the mainstream lately into the spotlight. We could get an awesome character arc for the Flash, and we could see different iterations of the fan favorite characters that we know and love from DC Comics. Rather than Bruce Wayne, we could get Thomas Wayne. We could have some new moves because he has pistols this time around. We could have Martha Wayne as the Joker. We could get an Aquaman who feels like he's from a war-torn apocalypse. We could get a Wonder Woman who feels more like the Linda Carter iteration of the character. We could get a completely new take on Superman. In my opinion, this would be a fun way for NetherRealm to keep the classic characters that players expect, but put an interesting spin on them where you can do something completely different. The variety in arenas could also be really cool to see in an Injustice Flashpoint game. Imagine starting a fight in a 1960s inspired Gotham City, punching someone through a wall so you enter a new stage, and the whole arena converts into a Batman Beyond style Gotham City. The third direction that NetherRealm could take Injustice 3 is in a reboot direction. They could just reboot the continuity. It's still a DC fighting game, but they get new voice actors to play the characters, and they tell a brand new story. I certainly wouldn't fault them if they chose to do this. DC is definitely in a different place. The movies that DC is trying to produce are definitely different than they were nearly 10 years ago when the previous Injustice games were coming out. I guess Injustice 1 is over 10 years old and Injustice 2 is nearing that anniversary. The original Injustice story has arguably run out of mileage, so to just do something completely fresh and new as opposed to trying to recycle ideas and force the story to continue when there's no real natural continuation would be better in my opinion. DC Comics is rich with lore and characters that could be explored in new and interesting ways. You could add Constantine and Parasite as playable characters that are integral to the story. You could reimagine the art style and the character designs for the game. You could get brand new voice actors. To sum it all up, I do think that there are great directions that Injustice 3 could be taken, but I'd rather it not be a direct sequel. I think it would be more original to do a full reboot, to do a Flashpoint story, or even to do a prequel. We've already gotten the Batman versus Superman story in Injustice 1. We've already gotten the reluctant team-up between Batman and Superman to fight a cosmic threat in Injustice 2. What do you do with Injustice 3 other than just doing something completely fresh? But now I would like to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments below what you would like to see narratively from Injustice 3. At some point, I'd like to do a video where I go through the roster I would like to see with Injustice 3, and feel free to leave yours in the comments below as well. Thank you all so much for watching. I truly appreciate the support on these videos. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and we will see you guys in the next one.